there are ramifications that will result in our damnation. And God loves us so much, He even loves the people who commit sin, that He respects our free will. See, God did not make a puppet world where He just pulls the strings and we act how He wants us to act. He gave us our most precious gift of free will. And giving that we have that, we can do with it for things of great glory, or we can do things of great evil. And He loves us so much, and He respects that precious gift, that He's not going to come in and intervene, even when we do evil things with it. Here's another way to say it, and this, I think, came out of Mere Christianity. I'm just going to read it, and I'll try to maybe put the quote somewhere on the video. If people are free not to follow God's design on things, then what purpose do they have, especially if they only cause suffering? Suffering would be religious hypocrisy, deception, murder, rape. C.S. Lewis goes on to say, I believe the answer to this question is, if God thinks the state of war in the universe, also known as suffering, deception, murder, rape, is a price worth paying for free will, for making a live world in which creatures can do real good and real harm, and something of real importance can happen, instead of a toy world which only moves when He pulls the strings, then we may take it as worth paying. So the answer to your question is that I believe God respects our free will, and He wants us to do the right thing. He's given us a brain and a body. He's given us an inner moral compass. He's revealed Himself to us in many different ways. You may be blind to it, and you may not see it, but it's just a matter of awakening your mind. And once you do that, your heart will be filled with such love and joy that there's a personal God who loves you. You'll want to do great things and righteous things for Him. Now, there are some people who do evil in the name of religion, but again, I would offer that you're pointing to the evilness of men, and you're cursing God. You're saying, God, why don't you stop these evil men? That's not the proper way to look at the situation. These men who did the evil deception, whether it be religious hypocrites or not, are responsible for their deception, and they will be held accountable for their deception. So don't point at the evilness of men and turn around and curse God. It's an inappropriate logic that you're having. Let's go on to your next point.
You also asked, where does our morality come from? Morality comes from a couple of things. It comes from empathy. That's the first thing. That's personal morality. That's, and of course, I said this in other videos just to make sure there is no such thing as objective morality. It only exists when you deal with people and interactions with people. But if you don't, like I said earlier in this video, if you don't know yourself enough to know that you should, if you don't, you haven't cut your own finger and then you're, okay, I'm going to cut this guy up and, put his organs in alphabetical order. Okay, if you don't know that, then, no rule book is going to help you.
All right, you just made the point on, where does morality come from atheists? I want to state up front that as an individual atheist, I recognize that an individual atheist can have morals. You can have a high degree of morals, because I understand that an individual atheist can hold himself accountable to a high degree of morality. But I would also offer, if you watch my video, Atheism, How the New World Order Sleeps at Night, you'll realize that when atheism becomes predominant in the leaders of society, that they will trash the fellow citizens of the world for their own gain. And they are much more likely to do so than someone who still believes in a soul. If you believe in a soul and an afterlife, I'm saying that you're much less likely to take advantage of your fellow citizens because you know that you will be held accountable in an afterlife. If you're an atheist, then you're much more likely to trash your fellow citizens because you don't believe you're going to be held accountable in an afterlife. And you've probably heard of the phrase, power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. The problem is when atheism becomes predominant in the leaders of the world. And either they are atheists or sometimes they're just outright Satanists. But that's a whole nother topic. But I'm saying that if the leaders are atheists and they've rejected their own eternal soul, they will abuse humanity. They will take advantage of humanity. And you talk about atheism, that morality comes from empathy. And earlier in my video, I talked about the circle of empathy. But your circle, your circle, as the circle widens, right? And I'll give this example again. I know I probably went over it, but let me do it real quick. If somebody in your family dies, you're devastated. If a cousin dies, you're highly affected. If somebody across the street dies, you're still less affected. And if somebody on the other side of the world dies, you may not even think twice about it. I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm just saying that's how the circle of empathy works. As the circle gets bigger, you have less and less empathy for the people. And as you do not know the people, your empathy is less and less. So my point is that you, as an atheist who have rejected your own soul, your circle stops when the person dies. See, my circle of empathy goes on forever. I'm not saying that I love people any more than you do as an atheist. I'm just saying that I believe that I'm going to meet those people in an afterlife, and that I'm going to be held accountable for how I treat those people even after they die. So you believe when they die it's all over with. So my circle of empathy is much, much broader than your circle of empathy, because you believe when somebody dies, that's the end of that. So anyway, I think we covered the morality and the empathy thing. Let's go on to your next point.
You were also talking about ambition. You're talking about how you can have ambitious atheists and ambitious theists. And you say that you made the claim that or at least you thought that it was more probable for an ambitious atheist to do things that are immoral and or illegal because they don't believe in accountability or an afterlife. I don't think that's a fair argument personally, but I'll argue it anyway. I don't think so. I think that a smart person, and I won't even say an atheist, but a smart person knows that you need people to work in a group in order to get big things done. If you want to get anything done that's big, that you can't do yourself, you got to have people. If you drive everyone away from you by being an ass, it's not going to happen. But I'm going to bring up some facts. Statistically speaking, there are more theists in jail for every different type of crime you can pick. Okay, now you may even say, oh well, they weren't theists when they went into jail. They were, and then they found God. Well, I'm going to ask you to look up recidivism rates. How many of these people find God in jail and then go back to jail because they did something wrong? That's very interesting. They're actually quite high here in America. So there are more theists in jail, violent crimes, whatever you want to pick. I mean, a very large amount of theists in comparison. So that would suggest that theism or any religion does not necessarily beget moral behavior, or theists will commit less crimes. The statistics disagree with you, sir. It has been a measurable fact that theists are in jail more, so it would be logical to assume that they do more crimes. You know what I mean? I mean, you can look. This is all public. You can look this up if you don't believe me.
All right, you've made some points here, and I want to respond. You brought up the fact that I said an ambitious atheist is more dangerous to society than an ambitious theist, someone who believes in God. And there's a video I made. I'll refer to it again. It's called New World Order: Atheism: How the New World Order Sleeps at Night. And I would also refer you back to Power Corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. But if you believe in God, if you believe in an afterlife, if you believe in a soul, you're less likely to perform tyranny on your fellow man, and you're less likely to abuse your fellow man. You also made that comment, and I don't think you did it consciously, but you said smart people. Well, I won't even say atheists, but you're correlating smart people to atheists. And you don't realize it, but it's very arrogant. It's a very arrogant thing you're doing, to say that, to be an atheist, you have to be smarter than the general person. You also said that, to do big things or great things, you have to work in a group, and that as an individual, if you're an ass, people will go away from you and you're just going to be left alone. And so I don't know for sure your political views, but it sounds like you're a collectivist based on that statement. And this video could go on for hours and hours regarding individualism versus collectivism. I am definitely an individualist. And I think that's, when I think of like great things that mankind has done, it's all come from individuals. It's all come from, Albert Einstein, Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, Victor Hugo, Dostoevsky. I mean, people that have done great things in history, and it's individuals that have done that. Copernicus, right? Copernicus was probably looked upon as an ass by his fellow men, but he was still saying the truth. So I don't know what your point exactly was when you said, you need to get a lot of people to do good things. See, I would never make the argument from numbers that because a lot of people believe like me, therefore it must be true. Whether a lot of people believe like me has nothing to do whether it's true or not. And I would argue that, are you willing to sacrifice your life in order to pursue truth? See, in my opinion, truth is such an important thing that in some cases, I won't say in every single case, but I'm willing to lay down my life for it because I don't want to live in a society where I lose my freedoms.